He used to let me sleep in the back of the storage room when I had nowhere else to go. I was 23, new to Calgary, and so broke I was rationing packets of instant oatmeal. Ray Thibodeau owned the little diner on 17th Avenue where I washed dishes for $6 above minimum wage, and he never once made me feel small for needing that kindness. I think about him every time I almost look away from something I shouldn't. This happened about 2 years ago, on a Tuesday in late October. The kind of afternoon where the sky turns that flat gray, that tells you winter isn't coming, it's already here. I was at the Safeway on Crowchell Trail, just picking up a few things after my shift at the garage. I own a small auto repair shop now. Nothing fancy, just me and two other guys in a unit off Bow Trail. It took me 7 years to get there, and there were plenty of Tuesday afternoons along the way when I couldn't have told you how I'd make rent. I was in the checkout line, third from the back, half watching my phone, when I noticed the woman 2 registers over. She was maybe 32. Dark hair pulled up in one of those buns that starts the day neat and slowly surrenders. She had a little girl with her, maybe 5 or 6, wearing a purple coat with a broken zipper that someone had safety pinned shut at the collar. The woman, I'd learn her name later, Ivy Brennan, was unloading her cart item by item onto the belt, and she was doing something I recognized immediately because I'd done it myself. She was counting, not out loud, but her lips moved a little with each item, and her eyes kept sliding down to the small screen on the register that shows the running total. A box of pasta, a jar of tomato sauce, a bag of apples, bread, a small carton of milk. She paused before putting down a package of cheddar cheese, then set it back in the cart. The little girl tugged on her sleeve. "Mama, can we get the macaroni ones?" Ivy touched her daughter's hair without looking at her. "Not today, sweetheart, but you said maybe." "I know. Not today." I stopped looking at my phone. The cashier, a teenager who wasn't paying close attention, rang everything through, and the total came up. I couldn't see the number from where I was, but I watched Ivy's face. She pulled out her wallet, took out a card, and tapped it to the reader. The machine beeped once. That short, flat beep, that means no. She tapped it again. Same beep. She tried inserting the card. The cashier looked up then. Not unkind, just young and uncertain. It's saying declined." Ivy's face went very still, the kind of still that takes effort. "I'll try a different one," she said quietly, and she dug into her wallet again. The second card got the same answer. She stood there for just a moment, 2 seconds, maybe 3, and then she started putting things back into her cart. "I'm so sorry," she told the cashier. "I'll have to come back, Mama," the little girl said. "It's fine, sweetheart, let's go." There was no drama. She didn't cry. She just picked up her purse, took her daughter's hand, and walked toward the exit with the kind of controlled calm that comes from practice, from having had to hold yourself together in public before. I stepped out of my line. I don't fully know why I moved so fast. I wasn't thinking through a plan. I just knew I'd watched someone swallow something painful in front of a stranger half her age, and I wasn't going to let the next part of that story be her getting to the parking lot and sitting in a cold car trying to figure out how to feed her kid dinner. "Excuse me," I said. I caught up with her just inside the exit doors, near the rack of reusable bags. "Sorry. I don't mean to intrude. I saw what happened back there, and I'd like to cover it, if that's all right." She turned and looked at me. There was nothing naive about her expression. She was assessing, clearly and quickly, and I didn't blame her for a second. "I don't know you," she said. "No, I'm Rowan. I work out of a garage on Bow Trail." I held out my hand. She didn't take it, which was fair. "I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable. I've been where you are. Not here specifically, but somewhere close. And somebody did something for me once, and I never forgot it." The little girl was looking at me with the focused suspicion that only kids can pull off. "Mama," she said, "he has grease on his jacket." Ivy glanced down at my sleeve. I did have grease on my jacket. Occupational hazard. "That's true," I said to the girl. "I fix cars for a living. It's kind of part of the uniform." She considered this. "My uncle fixes cars. He smells like gasoline. That's also accurate." Ivy almost smiled. Not quite, but almost. "I saw it happen and then not happen." "What's your name?" I asked the little girl. "Wren. That's a good name." Wren looked at her mother. Ivy looked at me for another long moment, and then she looked at the cart she was still gripping. "I have money coming in Thursday," she said. This week got complicated. I understand. I'm not in the habit of accepting things from strangers. I know, and I'll leave it completely up to you. But the offer's there." She was quiet. I didn't push. I just stood there and waited, because that was the only thing that felt right. "Okay," she finally said. "Thank you." We went back through together. I paid. The total was $63 and change. Wren asked if they could add the macaroni ones, the request aimed somewhere between her mother and the ceiling, and Ivy said yes this time, quietly, without making a big thing of it. I went and got them off the shelf myself because I already knew where the pasta aisle was. When we got outside, the wind had picked up. Ivy had parked near the cart return, a silver Civic that had seen better years but was clearly well maintained, the kind of car you take care of because you can't afford not to. Thank you, she said again. She was loading the bags into the trunk, not looking at me. I mean it, you don't owe me anything. I know. That's what makes it. She stopped. Thank you. Wren had already climbed into the back seat and was examining the macaroni box with the concentration of a scientist. I pulled a card out of my jacket pocket, one of my shop cards, the ones my buddy Terrence had printed for me at Staples. Nothing special, and I set it on the edge of the shopping cart. Not in her hand, just there. If you ever need a mechanic, I'm fair and I don't oversell work, I said. That's the only reason I'm giving you that. She looked at the card. She didn't pick it up yet. All right, she said. I walked back to my car. I didn't look back, because that felt like the right call, too. I didn't think I'd hear from her. I thought about it a few times over the next couple weeks, the way you think about strangers you meet in lineup moments. A quick wonder, then it fades. I had my own things going on. November hit hard that year. The shop was busy with people getting winter tires put on, and I was working long days and eating bad food from the place next door that sold shawarma wraps the size of my forearm. She called on a Friday morning 3 weeks later. Is this Rowan? The mechanic from Safeway? Her voice was careful, like she'd rehearsed the opening. It is. This is Ivy Brennan. We met outside the Crowchild Trail Safeway. You paid for my groceries. I remember. A pause. My car is making a sound. I don't know what kind of sound to call it. A grinding. Kind of. When I break brake pads, probably. Might be rotors, depending on how long it's been making that sound. Can you bring it in? I looked up what brake pads cost. Some places are. She hesitated. I want to know up front what I'm getting into. I appreciated that. People who've been surprised by mechanic bills before always ask that question, and they should. I'll diagnose it for free. If it's just pads, for your car it'd probably run you around $210, $220, including labor. If the rotors need replacing too, add another $120 or so. I'll show you what I find before I do anything. Silence on her end. I heard Wren's voice in the background, asking something about a cartoon. Okay, Ivy said. Can I come Saturday morning? She came Saturday morning. Terrence took one look at the Civic and nodded at me like he already knew the verdict. It was the pads, worn right down, and one of the rotors was warped. I brought Ivy into the bay, showed her what I was looking at, explained it the same way I explain it to everyone, without talking down to her. What does warped mean? She asked. I described it. She listened with the focused attention of someone who retains information and uses it. So it needs both, she said. To do it right, yes. She did the math in her head. I saw her doing it. Okay, do it. While we worked, she sat in the small waiting area I'd set up in the corner of the office. 2 chairs, a space heater, a coffee maker that was better than it looked. Wren had come with her and was drawing something on a notepad she'd produced from her mother's bag, with the self-sufficiency of a kid who's used to waiting. Ivy drank her coffee and looked at her phone, but at one point she put it down and said, Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you help? At Safeway. Really? I'd thought about how to answer that if she ever asked. Because I recognized the move you made. Putting things back. Holding it together in front of your kid. I've done that. Mostly alone, but I've done it. She was quiet. The man I mentioned, Ray, who owned the place I worked at when I was 23, he didn't just pay for something once. He let me keep my job when I missed a week because I was dealing with some stuff. He didn't ask me about it. He kept the schedule and said, Come back when you're ready. I've never forgotten that. What happened to him? He retired, sold the diner, moved to the island, Vancouver Island. I checked the torque on the wheel bolt. I sent him a card when I opened this place. He sent one back. That's as much of a friendship as it ever was, and it still meant everything. Ivy was quiet for a moment. I lost my job in August, she said. I was doing admin work at a dental office downtown. They let 3 of us go when they brought in new software that could handle 2 of our jobs combined. Which is, I know, just how things go. But Wren just started grade 1, and I had about 6 weeks of savings, and it's been, she stopped. November is month 3? Are you working now? I'm doing remote bookkeeping, contract stuff. It's inconsistent. I thought about that while I finished up. Wren had stopped drawing and fallen asleep sideways in the chair with her notepad still in her hand. Ivy had a light blanket that materialized from somewhere, and she draped it over her without making a sound. When I gave Ivy the bill, she read it carefully. This is less than what you quoted me. Pads were on sale from my supplier. I passed it through. She looked at me. I don't inflate margins, I said. It's not how I operate. She paid without argument. She folded the receipt and put it in her wallet, not her pocket. The wallet, which told me she was someone who tracked her expenses carefully. At the door, she put her hand out. We shook hands, properly this time. Thank you, she said. Again, safe driving. Get those pads checked every year. I will. She paused. My bookkeeping, the contract stuff. Does the shop use anyone for that? Or do you just do it yourself? That caught me slightly off guard. Mostly myself. Terrence does some of it. Honestly, it's not our strength. If you ever need someone, I'm thorough. I do good work. She said it plainly, without overselling, without apology. I'm not asking for charity. I'm asking if there's work. I'll think about it seriously, I said. I mean that. She nodded once. She woke Wren with a gentle hand on her shoulder. Come on, chickadee. And they walked out to the Civic together. I watched through the window as she buckled Wren in, then got in the driver's seat and pulled out of the lot slowly, carefully, the way people drive when they're used to being responsible for something precious. I talked to Terrence about it the following Monday. He'd been after me for a year to get someone in to clean up our books. We were fine, but we were messy, and the conversation took about 4 minutes before we agreed it made sense to try. I called Ivy on a Wednesday. I've got about 12 hours a month of work to start, I said. Remote's fine. It's mostly invoice tracking, HST, reconciling statements. If you want to look at the books first and tell me what you think, I'm open to that. Yes, she said. I'd like to look at them first. She did look at them first. She came in the following Thursday evening after Wren was at her grandmother's, sat at my desk with a mug of the good coffee I'd made specifically for the occasion, and went through 8 months of records in about 90 minutes. Then she handed me a list, handwritten, of 7 things that needed to be fixed and 3 things that were being categorized incorrectly. You're losing money on your HST filings, she said. Not a lot, but consistently. That's been happening for a year and a half. I can fix it going backward. It'll take some time, but it's worth doing. I looked at the list. It was precise and organized in a way that my books had never been. Okay, I said. You're hired. She looked up from the page. You don't want to discuss rate? Quote me something fair. She quoted me something fair. It was, if anything, slightly below what I'd expected, and I told her to add $10 an hour to it. Why? Because you're good at this and you know it, and you quoted low because you're being careful. Quote what you're worth. She pressed her lips together. 35. Done. She started the following Monday. Within 6 weeks, she'd untangled a C filing issue that had been sitting unresolved since spring, caught a recurring error in how we'd been logging parts costs, and set up a tracking system that meant I spent about 40 minutes a month on administrative work that had previously eaten up an entire afternoon. Terrence called her a miracle worker to her face, which made her uncomfortable, so he stopped saying it out loud and started just saying it to me. The Christmas before last, she brought Wren in to drop off a tin of shortbread cookies that Wren had apparently decorated herself with red and green sprinkles and significant enthusiasm. Wren handed me the tin with both hands and watched my face with the gravity of someone awaiting a verdict. These are the best cookies I've ever seen, I said. I did the sprinkles, Wren confirmed. I can tell. Real artist touch. Wren looked satisfied. Ivy was watching from the door, her hands in her coat pockets, and she was smiling. A full one this time. We're doing all right, she said. It wasn't aimed at me specifically. It was just something she needed to say. I can see that, I said. She took on 2 more clients in the spring. Both referrals from people I knew, and one I actively pointed in her direction because he needed a bookkeeper and she needed the work. By summer, she'd moved out of the apartment she'd been subletting and into a 2-bedroom in Kensington. Wren started grade 2 with a proper winter coat. The zipper worked on its own. I don't tell this story to make myself sound like something I'm not. I paid for $63 of groceries and I gave someone honest work at honest pay, and none of that makes me exceptional. What was exceptional was what Ivy did with it. The focused, careful, relentless way she moved forward. She didn't wait to be rescued. She bought herself 3 weeks to breathe, and then she used the breathing room. Ray used to say that most people don't need someone to carry them. They just need someone to get out of the road. I think about that a lot. I think about the brake pads, too. How long it must have been making that sound before she called me, how she'd been driving on it, and managing, and doing the math and keeping going. Because what other option was there? There's a kind of strength in that gets missed, I think, because it looks quiet from the outside. Ren called me last week. Ivy had put her up to it, I'm pretty sure, to tell me she'd lost a tooth and the tooth fairy had brought her $7, which she felt was above market rate. I told her I thought that was a solid return. She told me she was saving up for a fish. I told her that was a good plan. After she hung up, I stood in the shop for a minute, holding my phone, listening to Terrence argue with a parts supplier in the other room, and I thought about Ray, somewhere out on Vancouver Island, probably not thinking about me at all. About how you can do one decent thing for a person and never know what it turns into. About how the whole long chain of it, Ray to me to Ivy, Ivy to Ren, started with a storage room and some instant oatmeal and a man who just decided not to look away. I hope I never forget that.